Welcome to this episode of the Sat Signal. Today, I'm going to do something a little bit different that I've never done on the channel. I'm going to make a really simple video for people who are still quite new to Bitcoin. And I'm going to be talking about self-custody and how the Bitcoin blockchain actually works in really simple terms that a beginner can understand. So if you're an advanced Bitcoiner and you know all about how Bitcoin works and you know how nodes work and you know how to store your Bitcoin safely and how cold cards and wallets, I'm going to step through some of these types of things that we use in Bitcoin today, things like a Trezor, things like a seed phrase storage. I'm going to run through what these basic things are and how they work. And I'm going to give it my best attempt to keep it really simple. So when you buy Bitcoin, what are you actually buying? How does it get stored? So like when you get one of these devices that you see a Bitcoiner with, like a Trezor or a cold card or something like that, does the Bitcoin actually live on these devices? And what happens if you lose these? Are you screwed, right? Is that how people lose their Bitcoin? So let me start with this. Bitcoin is a form of money, right? And just like all other money, it doesn't really exist anywhere in the world other than in computer databases. Now, people who grow up in a normal world, they see money and they think money is the piece of paper that the bank gives you out of an ATM machine. But really, that's just proof that you have funds stored in the database of the bank. So if you think about National Australia Bank or Commonwealth Bank, what you do is you sit down on your computer and you type in your username and password and you open up, and there's an interface, which is the banking app, or it's the banking URL profile that comes up on your computer, and you click on your account and you see a balance, hopefully a positive balance when you log in there. But that is all made possible because the bank is running a centralized ledger, which is really just a database of who has what money, right? When you transfer money from your NAB account to somebody else's NAB account, it debits your account, it credits their account. Or if you send it across to somebody who banks with Commonwealth Bank or something else, really the bank is running what's called a ledger. And the way we interact with that ledger is through these tools that we call internet banking. Bitcoin is the same, except replace the word ledger with blockchain. So when you buy Bitcoin, what happens is the Bitcoin, setting aside mining, where you actually manufacture Bitcoin by using computers and energy, let's just talk about getting Bitcoin from maybe another Bitcoiner that you bought it off through an exchange, just like you might buy some Tesla shares off a buyer and a seller. When you buy Bitcoin, it has to move on the Bitcoin ledger, right? So what happens is you will have a wallet, right? So a wallet is a software interface in the same way that a NAB banking app is the way you log in to see your balance. You will have a wallet set up. And when you buy Bitcoin, someone will ask, hey, where do I send this Bitcoin? And you will give them a wallet address. With banking, you send them a BSB, an account number. With Bitcoin, you send them this long string of numbers, which is your unique wallet address, and it moves the Bitcoin into that wallet. Now, what these devices are for is for you to actually be able to move the Bitcoin. So let's say you want to move the Bitcoin from your wallet, you want to pay somebody, you would need a device to do that because you need to sign the transaction. So whereas in internet banking, you put your username and password in, you then with Bitcoin need to, when you go to your wallet, you can hit send, okay? You can put in the amount that you want to send, and then the wallet's going to say, hey, please sign it with a device or a key. And that's where the Trezor or a cold card or these other signing devices come in if you're doing self-custody, which means you're taking care of this yourself. You're holding these devices. There are services out there that will say, like if you go to an exchange, a Bitcoin exchange, you can buy the Bitcoin on the exchange, just like buying a Tesla share or a Commonwealth Bank share. You'll log into NAB Trade or Commonwealth Bank, and then you'll buy the share and it'll show up in a Commonwealth Bank or NAB Trade account as saying, hey, there's my Tesla shares or there's my cash, if you decide that you don't want to rely on those middle parties like a bank or a crypto exchange, you need to do what's called self-custody. And by the way, guys, underneath this video is a link to a company called the Bitcoin Way. And what the Bitcoin Way do is they teach you everything I'm showing you right now, but one-on-one, and they do personal coaching calls with you, and they will help you set all this up. They'll help you buy all the right devices so you can learn this properly. But getting back to the difference between self-custody and relying on third parties, one of the great things about Bitcoin is you don't need to rely on these third parties. So with National Australia Bank, one of the biggest issues, for example, if you're a freedom maximist like me, is that if you say something that the government doesn't like, and these days that's a very, very slippery line as the government cracks down on free speech and all these things, the government can simply pressure the bank to say, you know what, that guy Adam who banks with NAB, don't let him take his money out, or don't let him move the money. Most Australians already experienced this in trying to buy Bitcoin. They thought it was their money in the bank account until they said, hey, can you just send that money over to CoinSpot and I want to buy some Bitcoin. And the bank says, oh, no, you can't do that, right? And the bank puts you through all these security questions, and many of our clients have had their accounts frozen. That's the problem with centralized banking or putting your money in the hands of a third party. Or Bitcoin, it's the same thing. You can choose a third party, what we call a custodian, who will hold your Bitcoin for you. So all you have to do is log into their website and there it is. But the problem is the signing devices, these things that we use to move our Bitcoin, it's their wallet and they're holding it for you. You don't hold your own keys. These are your own keys to your own Bitcoin, which means you're in charge and you don't have to ask anybody to move it. If I'm in Venezuela or Tokyo or Cyprus and I want to move my Bitcoin, I just need my signing device. I log onto the internet and I can move it myself without fear that my custodial partner, like the National Bank or the Commonwealth Bank, whoever I think foolishly trusted to look after my Bitcoin, most of the time it's going to be fine. But sometimes the government might change the rules or put pressure on that institution and say, give me all your Australian customers. Let me know who they are. Yeah, none of those people can move their money because we just passed a new law, right? Whereas self-custody gives you that freedom. So let's get back to you having this wallet online. Now, I use a open source wallet, which means that the source code is freely available, and I store Bitcoin there. And when I want to move it, it's easy to receive money into the wallet. All you simply do is when you open your wallet, you'll see a receive button. And when you click on that, it has that long string of numbers, which is basically your account number. It's called a public key. You send that to anybody who has Bitcoin that you want to transfer it to this wallet. All they have to do is put that into their sending address and it'll get sent over to you as soon as they've signed it with their device. It will then be updated on the Bitcoin ledger and you'll see those funds, that Bitcoin, in your Bitcoin wallet. Where these guys come into play is when you want to move it out of your wallet, when you want to approve the moving out of your wallet. Now, so how does this work? So essentially that software wallet that you're looking at on your screen when you have a Bitcoin wallet is just an interface showing you the balance, right? But the actual Bitcoin is recorded on the blockchain, and the blockchain is just Bitcoin's ledger, right? Like National Australia Bank is a centralized database. The Bitcoin ledger is backed up worldwide through what's called a decentralized database. And that's done through what we call nodes. So hundreds of thousands of independent people and businesses globally in all kinds of jurisdictions have these nodes operating. In fact, I have one operating in my cupboard here at my home in Australia. And on that Bitcoin node is a complete copy of every transaction on the Bitcoin network since Bitcoin was invented. And I'm not the only one. There's hundreds of thousands of people like me globally that community-wise verify those transactions. So if power goes out in Australia, no problem. The Bitcoin blockchain exists all over the world in all kinds of jurisdictions. So there's no centralized power that is running this network, which is such a genius thing. And it's so, so powerful. But where these devices come in and what protects your Bitcoin is that each address wallet has 24 seed phrase word. So those 24 words, sometimes it's 12, but it's usually 24 words that go onto your key, right? So when you set up your self-custody and you buy either a Trezor or you buy something like this, I strongly recommend this device, which the team at the Bitcoin Way will explain to you why, but essentially it's an air-gapped wallet, meaning that to transfer my Bitcoin out of my wallet, I never have to connect a device. So Trezor connects through a cable to a computer that's connected to the internet. This particular device never connects to anything, and it's what we call a cold card, which is a much, much higher level of security. But when I want to move my Bitcoin, this cold card or this device, the Trezor, has my 24 words stored in it, encrypted inside. So if somebody was to get a hold of this, they couldn't get the 24 words out of it. But the wallet, when I log into my Bitcoin wallet online and I ask to move Bitcoin funds out to somebody else, the wallet's going to need to see those particular 24 words in that particular order. And this is what we call encryption. And I think it's called 256-bit encryption or BIP 189. I don't know the exact term, but the complexity of trying to crack 24 words in exactly the right order is what makes Bitcoin pretty much impossible to hack. So where do these 24 words come from that live on our key here? Like on our, this is what we call a key. Where do those numbers come from? So again, well, there's a few ways, a few different methods, but I'll talk about this particular device that I'm holding in my hand. When you buy this, and this is the power of working with the Bitcoin Way, which I myself have done, they helped me through every single step of this. They told me there's 3 or 4 approved devices on their list. All of them are air-gapped, meaning you don't ever have to connect them to the internet or ever have to connect them to a computer to move your Bitcoins. Very clever devices, and I chose this one. When you get this, you buy it directly from the manufacturer and it will come in a sealed box. And there is an opening protocol that's very important that the Bitcoin Way will step through with you to make sure that this has not been tampered with. And there's a whole bunch of tamper-proof protocols that they ship it to you with to verify, hey, this is direct from the factory. And when you get it, there's one of 2 things you could do. You can either say, hey, listen, I'm brand new, I'm creating a new wallet, and I need new keys cut, right? So I need 24 new words that are going to go onto this device that are then going to store my Bitcoin behind those 24 words in this wallet. And so when you open the device, you simply ask it to randomly generate your 24-word seed phrase. We call it the seed phrase. That particular string of 24 words is called your seed phrase. And it will randomly generate them one by one by one. And there's a particular protocol where you capture those words. You never put it into a computer. You never photograph these words. It's written down by hand with pen and paper initially. And then once those 24 words are generated, they are locked in this device. And this device now can sign outbound transactions from your wallet to any Bitcoin you put into that wallet that is connected to this key is then protected by those 24 words. And again, this is a password protected device in the same way that your banking app is just a password, username and password to log in. This has a password, but it also has some other cool features, which I won't go into now, which helps you hide Bitcoin and protect it even more deeply, right? So those 24 words are now stored in here. They're randomly generated by the device, which is why it's super important that it hasn't been tampered with when you get it for the first time. But alternatively, you can put 24 words into a Trezor as well, or one of these other devices. The big difference being this connects to the internet and this one doesn't. So once you get those 24 words, you might be thinking, oh my goodness, what happens to that bit of paper? Or what happens if I lose this device? Well, if you lose this device, it's fine because there's a password to get into this device and it's encrypted, so you can't get the 24 words out of it afterwards. And again, the Bitcoin way will teach you a whole bunch of safe ways to be able to make sure that you always have access to this key. But what you then do with those 24 words is you put them on steel plates. And this is one of those steel plates. These sides pull off, and stamped into this, when you buy these, this is metal. Again, the Bitcoin way will show you where to get these. It's a little punch, and you literally punch your seed phrase into this physical piece of metal that is fireproof and so on, so that you have a physical hard copy backup. And I store these plates around the world. And if you want to go really crazy, you can store 12, words, which is half of your seed phrase, in one location and the other half of your seed phrase in another location, whether you're using safe deposit boxes or anything like that. But I have two of my family that have access or hold steel backups, and I have a whole protocol for storing my seed phrase, because if somebody gets your seed phrase, they could literally order one of these devices, and then, because when you buy this, you either get it to generate, or a Trezor, you get it to generate the seed phrase if it's a brand new wallet that you're using. But let's say you'd lost this, so you decide you don't want to use this anymore and you want to switch over to this kind of key. You would then program the 24 words into the new key, and then from that point on, this key can sign transactions in your wallet, and Bitcoin can be moved out of your wallet if you've got the 24 words in the exact order that they were generated the first time by the signing device. So the essential parts to this is you need a software interface, and I use an open source protocol that the Bitcoin way taught me how to set up. You need a key, right, which is and I recommend an air-gapped key, right? There's so many great features about this device that the Bitcoin way got me to use. I got it to randomly generate 24 keywords or seed phrase, which is then securely stored inside the device. And I've got several of these, and a couple of them in the hands of trusted parties as well. And then I store the seed phrase on this metal card, which is then secured very safely, just in case I ever need those seed phrases. If I lose a cold card, or it breaks, or it shatters, or I just decide I want to, get a new type of signing device or a new key. So essentially, guys, those are the basics of what you need to set up in your own self-custody. But I strongly, strongly recommend that you go to experts to help you do this, because it is very confusing and at the start, and you need people who are genuinely compassionate to our ignorance. It is very scary when you first start to become the IT security officer for your own funds, because our whole lives we were brought up to rely on banks and let somebody else take care of our money. And it is scary, and even for me, and it's really scary once Bitcoin starts to get more and more valuable over time. But the freedom that comes from being able to travel with your funds without needing a bank or an intermediary at all, and knowing, hey, all I need is my signing device, and I can move my Bitcoin whenever I want to. Now, there are all kinds of other protocols built into this basic setup to protect your funds in the event of you being the victim of a wrench attack, or if you're worried about those things. There's all sorts of protocols around that to help you protect. The only other thing I'll mention quickly is another form or another method that is very common, which is called a multi-sig wallet or a multi-signatory wallet. And all that means is, rather than just needing to sign outbound transactions from your wallet, so like when you log into National Australia Bank, instead of just being able to log in and just say, hey, move the money from there to that BSB and account number, you can have a multi-sig wallet with Bitcoin, which sets that wallet up so that outbound funds have to be signed by more than one key. So the common setups is 2 of 3 keys or 3 of 5 keys. So you can set it up so that in order for funds to move, they can't move unless either 2 of 3 existing keys sign that transaction. So one might be in your pocket, one might be in your partner's pocket, or it wouldn't be your pocket, but somewhere stored safely. And in that case, it adds that extra layer because you need 2 people to sign. And if it's a 5 key, you need 3 out of 5 people to sign, and which even makes it more secure again. And for many people who hodl Bitcoin or hold Bitcoin, hodl is a Bitcoin in-house phrase. I won't go into it now, but if you hold Bitcoin long term, you might decide that you want to, set it up so that multiple people have to sign any outbound transaction, and there are benefits to that as well. So hopefully that demystifies how Bitcoin works. The takeaways are the similarities between banking and Bitcoin, right? National Australia Bank or Commonwealth Bank, you log in with a username and password through an interface, and then you get to see the ledger in a visible form. But really, it's just computer code. It's just a centralized database controlled by National Australia Bank, and which has the discomfort of relying on their opinion of you and the government's opinion of you, because the government will pressure them if they don't like you, because money is a pinch point in many people's lives. And that's why I love Bitcoin from the freedom perspective. So you log in, username, password, you can see your funds, you can transfer your funds. Whereas with Bitcoin, you have a wallet, a software wallet or an interface wallet that you log into on your computer, and you can see the funds. You can receive funds by clicking receive, and you get a string of numbers which you give to somebody who's trying to send Bitcoin, or also generate a QR code which they can just scan. But if you want to get funds out of your wallet, you need a signing device or multiple signing device, which are called keys. And these keys have 24 words hidden within them. They either get generated by the device when you're setting up the wallet, or if you're just trying to access an existing wallet that already has Bitcoin in it, you need to enter the seed phrase when you set up the new key. And that comes from your steel plates, where you had them engraved basically into these steel plates and stored very securely. Sometimes half the phrase is in one location, half is in the other, because it's not something you do every day if you're a long-term holder setting up new keys. Now, you've probably got lots of questions, and if you do, the best place to get them answered is with the Bitcoin Way. I advocate for these guys so strongly because they are the only company, I think, in the world that provides the service that they do, where they literally do one-on-one coaching with you. Even if you are absolutely terrible with tech, they will show you what devices to buy. You'll make another appointment. They'll then open the box with you. At certain points, they'll say, hey, okay, turn the camera off for this point because I don't need to see what you're about to type into the computer when you're setting it all up. They're very, very good. They are total Bitcoin experts. It's all they do. They don't deal with any other kind of cryptocurrency. And the founder is a very good friend of mine, Tony Yazbek. And Tony lost all of his wealth in the Lebanese banking collapse. The banks took everything from him. So for him, this is not a business, this is a mission. And he wants to teach people how to become what Bitcoiners call sovereign individuals. Imagine the freedom that comes from being able to travel across borders. If you don't like the tax jurisdiction that you're in, leave that country, take your Bitcoin with you. All you need is your key. And even if you left that behind, you can always buy another key wherever you go. As long as you've got access to your 24 words, you can put the 24 words into your new key. The old key won't be accessible because it's password protected. And there's all sorts of other security measures in there to lock that down. Just get a new key, you put your new 24 words in, and you're back in business. And so it's very powerful. It's extremely liberating. And also knowing that the centralized ledger is not a centralized honeypot. So people often say to me, oh, well, quantum computing might hack Bitcoin. let me ask you a question. Would it be harder and more attractive to attack a bank than Bitcoin? Just firstly, on moral grounds, the people that are wanting to steal funds, do you think they hate Bitcoiners more? Do you think they hate banks more? I think the answer would be banks. But secondarily, banks have a lot more money than there is in the entire Bitcoin network. There's $130 trillion of cash sitting in bank accounts around the world. There's only $2 trillion of Bitcoin globally. And the Bitcoin ledger is distributed across the world. So there's no centralized place to hack. If you want to hack the NAB servers, it's probably a lot more straightforward for quantum than it is to hack a globally distributed network. The other thing about Bitcoin is that if you do hack it, you only have the ability to double spend. And if you do that, you devalue the asset that you have just stolen. It'd be like stealing a truck full of drugs and then lighting it on fire, as opposed to cash. Fiat cash still has value after you've stolen it. So very interesting. I think this is something that you need to learn about at the very least. I hope you found the video helpful. I'm trying to do a series of just super simple videos so that people can understand Bitcoin better. If this has been helpful, please subscribe to the channel, drop a comment below, and I thank you for your attention. Have a great day. Bye for now. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Sat Signal on Unemployable. Now, before you go, make sure you check out the 3 links in the description below. When you are a Bitcoiner, there are 3 things you need to do. You need to buy it, you need to store it, and possibly, if you're really into it, you might even want to mine it. But when it comes to buying it, we work with Stormrake, and the reason we do that as Australians is they are the easiest to buy from as a Bitcoin broker, the largest ones in the country. You have less challenges moving your money into their account to buy your Bitcoin for you. They offer a white glove service. They are Aussies. They have an office in Melbourne. They're a really good business to deal with, especially if you're first time to buying Bitcoin. So the way to contact them is go to stormrake.com/unemployable. They will look after you. When it comes to storing your Bitcoin, go to thebitcoinway.com/unemployable. They are the world leaders in helping people take full custody of their Bitcoin. So it will never be stolen from you. Don't leave it on exchanges. Take custody, learn to become your own security expert. And the last people we work with is Mining Store, also an Aussie company based in Melbourne. They can show you how to mine Bitcoin 24/7. So no matter what the price is, you just keep dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin using your own Bitcoin mining gear. To learn more, go to miningstore.com.au/unemployable. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Make sure you subscribe before you leave.